Hey, it's time for a chat with Pat. And Pat, I am so excited. We're going across the pond.
We are. We are. Today we're talking to Dr. Callum, I think I said the right, Callum Miller, who is a professor at Oxford University, a prolific writer. In First Things, he's written, at least I've seen many articles that he's written in First Things. But the one I contacted or we contacted him about to talk with us today is the UK's abortion reckoning, which was in First Things, the first part of July. Hello, Dr. Calum Miller. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm great, thanks. Thank you for having me on.
Oh, that's all right. Thank you for writing this article. I want to jump right into it because there is so much in here. But you start this article with saying the UK has pushed too far on abortion. So, can you explain to our audience what they did that made you say they've pushed too far?
Yeah, well, I should, I guess, clarify that they pushed too far 60 or so years ago when they legalized abortion even at all.
Right.
But what I meant in this article is even for a very liberal, pro-choice or pro-abortion country like the UK, where 90% of people support abortion, even by that measure and for that audience, they have pushed too far because they have really done something which was incredibly unpopular, which is remove any penalties or any consequences for a woman who has an abortion at any point up to birth. And for a country that is very pro-abortion, but a country that really believes in limits to abortion, like most
Mm-hmm.
of Europe, the idea that this could be possible at any point up to the moment of birth was just beyond the pale, and a lot of people who otherwise call themselves pro-choice have reacted very strongly to this and are beginning to reconsider the whole issue.
So you made the statement about the woman being prosecuted. In our country, obviously, we do not do that. Doctors, etc., can be prosecuted. Has this always been a part of the legal ramifications for abortion in your country, or is this something new?
Yes, it has. So there have always remained criminal penalties for people who have had abortions outside the legal framework, and these have been very mercifully applied. You know, it's exceedingly rare that anyone is prosecuted for an abortion or has any sort of penalty or consequence at all. But the
Hmm.
law is there for those rare cases where I think everyone can agree this is something that is really quite barbaric and wrong and shouldn't be able to be done without any penalty. Just as an example of that, about 10 years ago, a woman called Sarah Katz was 39 weeks pregnant. So she was full
Wow.
term. She could have
Hmm.
given birth at any moment. And she had an abortion at that stage, not because she had any health problem or because she was the victim of assault or anything like that. She had an abortion because she wanted to cover up an affair. So this is not the sort of picture that's often painted, which is that late-term abortions are only ever for medical reasons, and no one in there, no one would ever
Right.
have an abortion other than that. This was
Right.
the simple reality that someone had an affair, and to cover it up, they had an abortion at 39 weeks. And so,
Mm.
as I say, in a country that is generally very pro-choice, that was too far for most people. She was sentenced to jail for a number of years, and the majority of people in this country said that's actually right because she did something that was truly heinous and deserved some consequences for that. So it's not common, but it does happen.
It does happen. So, you made a statement that 91% of the Telegraph readers in your country opposed this bill. So, how did it get passed? How did it get slipped through?
Yes, unfortunately, we have a politics, not just this government, but most governments in the UK, who really are not very in touch with the population,
Mm.
and who really rule according to, the values of a certain very small subgroup within London, which isn't really reflective
Oh,
of the wider population. And
okay.
so it's very common that things get passed, even when they're deeply unpopular. And this explains the state of political parties in the UK where all of them are very
Mm.
disliked. They all have very low approval ratings. And remarkably, for a very two-party system, we're now seeing the emergence of third parties and fourth parties which have a genuine chance of getting power, which is pretty unprecedented in this country. And it's really just because our political class has become totally devoid of any connection to the people that they're supposed to serve.
Wow. Well, you said in your article that you believe the PR battle in this issue is changing or is changed because of this whole thing. Can you explain that? You really kind of say we're at the very bottom. We're only able to go up. Can you give us some insight into that?
Yeah. So my whole lifetime, which is just over 30 years, the direction of travel on this issue, not just politically but culturally in my country, has just been one direction. People have become more and more accepting of abortion. The law has gone more towards liberal abortion. And there's really very few cases, if any, that I could think of where the media and the sort of weight of public opinion has been in support of the pro-life side. I can't really think of any examples until now. And so this is really a once-in-a-generation moment where the lights are beginning to switch on. People are beginning to think, is this really right? Have we gone too far? Because, as I say, in this case, the large majority of the mainstream media, which is very pro-abortion, the large majority of the people, the large majority even of many politicians, not all politicians, obviously not the ones who voted for it, but the majority of sort of opposition politicians said that this was too far, and that's extremely rare. So I think we are seeing a revisiting of this issue in the UK in a way that hasn't been seen for genuinely decades, which is, I think, very encouraging.
Yeah. So you said this whole abortion thing kind of appeared to be settled in Europe and Scandinavian countries, but then all of a sudden they started to change laws and maybe reverse things. What, in your estimation, kind of brought that on, that they started to move in a more anti-life direction?
Yeah. So as I say, it was really the stable position of most European countries that you could have abortion up to about 12 weeks or sometimes 14 weeks, but not after that unless there was a really exceptional situation. And that was pretty much the settled position of almost all of Europe for the last 2 decades. There was no real push to ban abortion because most people support it, but nor was there any real push to expand abortion further, because most people in Europe say, yes, I believe in abortion, but only up to 12 weeks or so. That has changed in the last few years, I think, really as a response to the elections in the U.S. and the overturning of Roe v. Wade in the U.S. So I think with people seeing that Trump winning the election in 2016, and then again, of course, last year, and then Roe v. Wade being overturned, the radical groups in Europe who have always wanted to push further but never had the public support suddenly found that they could have a sort of justification for pushing further, because they could point to the US and say, look, we don't want to become like the US where abortion might genuinely become seriously restricted. We've got to absolutely fight for every inch of our reproductive rights now. We've got to fight for every, possibility of abortion now, or else it could disappear like it is in the US. So it was really sort of scaremongering about what's happening in the US and saying we don't want that to happen to Europe, and therefore sort of manipulating voters into supporting radical policies that they don't really support deep down.
So one word of advice for us in the United States on this topic?
I would say keep fighting, and also recognize the impact that you can have on the rest of the world. There's an incredible opportunity for American pro-lifers who have done an incredible job over the last few decades. There are huge opportunities to expand that impact overseas, and it's desperately needed, not just in Europe, but also in Africa, in the Middle East, in Asia, and everywhere else. So please do think about how you can get involved in that way, because you really can make a huge difference.
Thank you so much, Dr. Miller, for being with us today. We are talking about UK's abortion reckoning with Dr. Calum Miller, article in First Things. Thanks again.
Thank you so much.